I think a lot of people are missing a trick with David Moyes and the way they assess David Moyes. Not you lot. I'm talking about the media here. I'm talking about primarily on the radio and on the television, the pundits, particularly the ex-footballers, because I've just driven back from Brighton. I've heard a load of really tired old cliches about the reasons for retaining David Moyes. Before you say, I know, sorry, let's just deal with it now. No, I'm not in my bedroom. That's not my, what is it? That's not my pink picture of a lady in a pink dress. Okay, I've just driven probably about 2.5 hours from Brighton, which is why I've been listening to the radio. I've stopped back at Mum's. I'll probably stay here tonight. So it's about another hour and a half sort of back home. But anyway, it's given me the opportunity to listen to the radio for a long stretch, which I just don't normally do. I particularly don't listen to Talk Sport. And this has just confirmed why I don't. Talk Sport, before I get onto the West Ham stuff, used to be lots of journalists on Talk Sport, a couple of ex-footballers, not that many, and you'd have lots and lots of fan involvement, and you didn't feel that the journalists had to be centre stage. They'd be happy for the fans to phone up. It's been watered down more and more and more. There's less fans. Now it's all about the ex-footballers that are there. The trouble is with these people is they're totally and utterly reluctant to criticise anyone, and that's why. And look, I'll shoehorn a little plug in there. That's why Anton is so refreshing on our Patreon channel, because he will call it like it is. But by and large, professional footballers do not say, I want such and such sacked or such and such should leave. And I've just had to put up with Jamie O'Hara doing it. And there was some, it's not just him, by the way, there were a load of them. In fact, the guy after him was even doing it. And the guy after him was Mark Goldbridge. I think that's his name. I think he's a Manchester United YouTuber, quite frankly. But the cliches that were coming out were terrible. Be careful what you wish for. You had all that. There's no better man than David Moyes to keep West Ham up. Who's out there? All of this sort of stuff. But the one I think that really annoys me more than anything is David Moyes is exactly the type of guy you would hire. Basically, last time he actually said these words. The last time that West Ham were in trouble, we've done it twice. We've gone out and got David Moyes. So we've got exactly the right guy in place now. I'll tell you what it misses, and every single one of them, and honestly, if I could have been bothered, I would have phoned up, but then again, I was driving. Here's the thing, all right? When Moyes came in, we got that new manager bounce. What everyone seems to miss about this scenario that we got the best manager for the job, David Moyes is already here. We don't get him coming in with a fresh set of eyes. Do you remember all that stuff about making players fit? The players are unfit under Pellegrini. The players are unfit under Bilic. He comes in like a sergeant major type. But players, it's someone new. They listen to his messaging. He gets a bit of an uplift. Results improve. So yes, whilst it is accurate that David Moyes came in before and he got us out of a relegation pickle, right? That's gone. There is no uplift. We've already had it. We already had it the first time he joined for the second period, if you know what I mean. We already had that at the start of his current contract that he's on now. There is no uplift now. And there was just... I think it's really hard to pay any attention to any of these people who probably... Let's be honest, these were the same people probably when Steven Gerrard was doing absolute rubbish, probably weren't saying when Steven Gerrard should be sacked. They probably weren't saying when Frank Lampard was doing rubbish that Frank Lampard should be sacked. They probably think nobody should be sacked. And that is why you cannot take these people seriously. If I could turn around and say, actually, I did say X, Y, and Z and they should, basically, ultimately their job is to call football how they see it, and they're just not ruthless enough. Now, I don't mind if they come back with a reasonable argument why David Moyes should retain his job, but I don't think they did. I just want to, going back to, just before I go full in on Moyes, if you listen to the end of yesterday's video, I was not happy about the players, and I'm really not. I was just so annoyed about it. But the players got stick as well. I think that's really important. It wasn't just the crowd going at David Moyes. It was absolutely that the players got their fair share as well. Felt quite sorry. There was one lad sort of stood next to us who'd come down to the front, and he had this big sign. He'd made a collage, and it's pictures of Declan Rice, and Declan, can I please have your shirt? And he'd made it on cardboard. He'd obviously taken a lot of time gluing stuff on and drawing stuff and all the rest of it. And there was no way Declan Rice was coming over. There's no way none of the players were coming over because Well, because rightly so, they were bloody sheepish because that was a terrible, terrible performance from them. But back onto David Moyes here. I'm recording this now, and I know I've said this before. I'm recording this now, and by the time I upload it for tomorrow morning, maybe just maybe David Moyes has been sacked. That was. He was outclassed yet again. I made the point in yesterday's video. He's not just getting outclassed by the top managers, he's getting outclassed by their assistants. And he doesn't seem to understand or know a way to tactically deal with it. That's his job. I think he spent more time sitting down than I can ever really recall. David Moyes. He looks like a beaten man. He really does. And now I've obviously had the displeasure of hearing his comments about the fans as well. And if you don't know, thank you, Tony sent them to me for when I was driving back. Basically, in his interview, David Moyes said, well, he said two things. We'll do the first one, the thing that's, well, they both annoy me, but one of them is another dig at the fan. This is his third dig at the fans. He's basically turned around, good fans support the team in bad times. Well, you know what the implication is by that. He's insinuating that we're not good fans, basically, that we're only sing when you're winning. Let me just tell you now, that's not what was happening, right? The team were crap. David Moyes was crap. The fans let him know, and they let them know. But I'll tell you now, there was still singing going on. In fact, there was a lot of ironic singing, which was, basically we passed the ball, we won the ball, things like that. We were cheering and singing songs about the very, very simple things. We were cheering a completed pass. We were delighted that we'd crossed the halfway line. It was gallows humour. It was very, very hard to sing things about praising what the manager had done, or praising the tactics, or praising the way the players were playing. But I think he's got some cheek, really. I think because the trains were there. I didn't suffer this. I'm relatively uninterrupted journey to drive there, but I think a lot of fans really struggled with the trains. He's got some nerve, really, to suggest that good supporters support the team even in bad times, because he didn't have a clue, and basically people were calling him clueless. He was clueless. He didn't have a clue how to deal with it. He didn't have a clue what substitutions to make. He didn't have a clue how to deal with the opposition manager, and it just doesn't. It's not like just the top managers in the world. Pep Guardiola gets the better of him. Even honestly, the managers that go in, and no offence to Brighton, I think they're a really good, nice club. But the manager of Brighton get the better of him. Brentford's manager gets the better of him. Fulham's manager gets the better of him. Honestly, he is. I don't really know what else it would take. I did wonder, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, if the fact that Sullivan must have heard what the fans were singing. And even if he didn't, even if he pretended not to notice us, like he was doing that, la 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 la, I'm pretty sure when he got in the car with his kids, I'm assuming his kids, Jack and David Jr., I'm pretty sure when he got in the car, they would have said, "Did you hear that, Dad?" from the fans. I'm pretty sure that would have happened. So he must know about it. He really, really must. The other thing that really annoyed me about David Moyes' interview, when he turned around and he said that, maybe we were tired. We were tired after the Man United game. I mean, I really don't know what to say. They've had a lot of time off. Because of the World Cup, they've had a lot of time off. And also, that one's on him. He didn't have to play that team against Man United. I think in many respects he would have got a free pass. Do I know everything about what every fan says? No, of course not. But we do videos every single day. So we've got an idea, right? If there's 500 comments in the comment section every day, right? We got an idea what people are thinking. And just through me seeing that, I think going into that Man United game, I think the majority of people, bearing in mind he had a really important game coming up against Brighton, then the European game coming up, I think the majority of people would have totally understood if David Moyes had gone up there with a weakened team because he was prioritising something else. I mean, the signal was there. Ten Hag did it. Ten Hag played a weakened team against West Ham. We weren't able to beat them. Now, don't get me wrong, we went up there and we played very well. And it was enjoyable up until whatever. Up until they started scoring goals against Manchester United, I'm talking here. But he didn't have to do that. That was his choice. He could have done something completely different. And for him to do that, and then for him to say the reason we played crap today was because they were tired, because he really went for it against Man United. I mean, he's a frustrating man to listen to. He really is. The excuses that he makes are terrible. I don't know what's going on with Skamaka. Maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I don't know what's going on. There's something not quite right there. The amount of time he took to deal with whatever was happening. He didn't know how to deal with what was happening. The way Brighton were cutting through us really, really easily with their passing. Their midfield, Calcedo, that's his name, Calcedo and McAllister. I think they were two of them just slicing through us, actually. And we couldn't, particularly Calcedo, I think in particular, the way he was moving and the speed at which he was moving was we couldn't deal with it. And also, he'd laid the ball off really quickly and got a good range of passing. Good player. First time I think I've had a proper look at him. Actually, really good. I think we even got a little bit lucky. I've got to say, Areola made a wonderful save. It was other end of the pitch, but it looked like a stunner. You'll have seen it more than I have at the moment. By the time you watch this, I've not watched any highlights or anything yet. And I think we got a little bit let off with early on in the game. Their player Lamptey, I think it's Lamptey. Used to play for Chelsea. Chelsea's old player. It's like a FIFA player, like a console player, like with a speed of 100. That's crazy. It was just crazy. And he was him and Solly March down that side, about to cause all sorts of bother. So actually, I think we got a little bit of a let off when he went off injured early on, because I think it would have been far, far worse. That being said, I think it probably should have been 6-0 with that game. And just to come back to what I was saying, that's what made it so frustrating to listen to all this tosh on the radio of these pundits who, it doesn't matter, what West Ham fan phoned up and said, yeah, but we spent 200 million and, we can't seem to do anything tactically. They always come back with the same thing, oh yeah, but who'd you get? And here's my point, and that's it, yeah, who'd you get? There's no one better than David Moyes for the job. I call nonsense on that. I say that's nonsense, right? There's no one better than David Moyes for the job. I think almost anyone would, and I'll tell you why. I think possibly that new manager bounce would be enough to keep us up. I think that might make the difference. We can't get it with David Moyes, and that's why I think almost anyone. And that's why the other day, when I said Alan Pardew, it might have sounded ridiculous, but I mean, it's frustrating to watch some. I know their manager, Brighton's manager, wasn't on the touchline, but it is frustrating to watch Brighton and to know that our owners would never even know who their manager is. We'd never get anyone innovative and the best young and up-and-coming coach in Europe, as I've said before, because we wouldn't know who they were. So I sort of have to say, okay, well it's not going to be any of those. Are they? They're not even brave enough to dip into the Championship and go and get. You probably wouldn't get Company now, just purely because they're running away with it. But you could have got Company probably in November, but they wasted so much time, the ownership. But they won't go and get Carrick, or they won't go and do anything else. It's still David Moyes. David Moyes is the best man for the job, or so they speak, or so they think. But and that's why I said I was being a little bit flippant when I said Pardew, but I only say that because I know he would come in and he would make the players feel better. He would raise the level of performance. I'm not saying he'd do anything brilliantly tactically, but he would get us attacking more, and he would do that. So, but it's not just Pardew. You could think of any number of people who would do that. And honestly, people speak, the way the press speak about David Moyes, you'd think he was Carlo Ancelotti. And again, as always happens, it's always, he rescued West Ham and he did well at Everton. Why are you only discussing half the stuff? Why aren't you discussing the other stuff? Why has no one ever discussed the relegations with him? I don't know. I just don't know anymore. I've been saying, I don't know if you watch the channel regularly, I've been saying for a little while, Bournemouth don't look that bad. And I know they lost. Anytime I've seen them, they've got a vibrancy, they've got a pace about them, they look like they've got goals in them. And it's a worry. It's a worry. I think there's every chance we'll get relegated now. Again, we're back to, are there three worse teams than us? I don't know. but I do think to give us the very best chance, we probably do need to get rid of Moyes. I'm not sure how much I believe it will happen. I don't know. But I do know one thing. I know one thing, and that's why I did the video now. 3 hours after I left Brighton, which is now, have I calmed down? I'm probably not as angry, but am I any less concerned? No. No, there's been no moment of clarity. There's been no point where I thought, oh, actually, this is, it's not as bad as I thought. I can take a little bit of hope out of this or this. There was nothing. There was nothing. Not a performance from a player. Not a decision from a manager. To see him on that touchline instructing, I think it was Scamacca, Downs, and Lanzini. Downs, Lanzini, and Zuma. Downs, Lanzini, Scamacca, and Zuma. Up and down. Made them all run. There was one point. Again, if you were there, you'd have seen this. There was one point where, relatively early in the second half, Downs. I'm not suggesting Downs was the answer here, by the way. I mean, the way he played with no wingers was absolutely crazy. Come the end of the game, it was preposterous. Actually, I mean, he honestly would have been better bringing that Sawyer with him from the under-21s. He'd have at least done a little job there. At least he was a winger. See these round pegs in square holes was absolutely ridiculous. But there was a point, for whatever reason, he was Flynn Downs warm up. Gets Flynn Downs, comes back to the bench, and this is just the type of stuff you don't see on telly, right? And Flynn Downs takes the so he's got a yellow bib on, as you've got to have it when you're warming up. So he takes the yellow bib on, and then he's got like the tracksuit thing on, so that the tracksuit's coming down. He's about to go on, and for some reason it stops. Oh no, stop! And you see him do this. There you go, bib back on, goes and sits back down. What? I mean, how muddled is that? I know, listen, that probably happens on every bench all the time, but it just looks worse when David Moyes, he can't make a decision. There you go, Moyes went and sat back down. Oh, it was torturous. And as I mentioned in yesterday's video, sorry, I've been waffling on for ages now. As I mentioned in yesterday's video, it was, I've been to many football matches in my time, and I've walked through far more hostile crowds than that Brighton one. And I think that almost made it worse. I mean, they were so nice. So they weren't very good, West Ham were they? Oh no, I think that might have been our easiest game. It all came together then. We played the right opponents at the right time. They were saying all this stuff. And then not even nasty. I had my coat done up and all the rest of it. I had a big black coat on. They wouldn't even known that I was a West Ham fan. Do you know what I mean? So they wouldn't have known that one of us was walking amongst them. But to hear them say, "Oh, I think that might be the worst team we've played." That's what I'm saying. They weren't saying it for my benefit. That was just a conversation amongst Brighton fans leaving the game. Hard to hear. Anyway, there you go. I'm sure I'll be back with another moan tomorrow, unless something positive happens.